3 rolls on this tower here, and whatever 3 random questions you roll, that is where we start.
Okay, I love this.
Must-haves. What is something you absolutely have to have on set? You know, your sides, a snack, something to pass the time between scenes, whatever it is.
I love this question. I have to have my AirPods. I like to get into, if it's a vulnerable scene, I kind of need to be in my own space. And, on set, there's so much happening that having a pair of AirPods really helps, especially because you could just be like, oh, sorry. It's kind of a signal to other people to say, please don't talk to me.
It's like when I go on an airplane, I got my hat on, I've got my headphones on, and my mask on.
Exactly.
I just want to look as unapproachable as possible.
Exactly. And I don't want to be unfriendly, and you also don't want to explain it. So, it just helps when you're like,
this makes all the sense in the world.
Ear.
What are you listening to?
Oh, that's a secret.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is a secret.
That.
That is a secret.
I respect that.
What else? The snacks, I will have to say, are Crafty Truck is pretty great, so I don't have to bring anything. My favorite is, this Laz and I, he plays Mother's Milk. We really get into all the snacking, and the first 3 seasons we were not watching what we were eating, and so I think for the latest season we're like, we have to be good, Karen. So we were trying to skip the cookies and then trying to do nut butter and apples, or vegetables and hummus. And my favorite menu item at the end of a day, you kind of want a hot meal. It's not, the day wasn't long enough to do a second meal, but you want something hot. So I do a tuna melt, but instead of putting it on 2 pieces of bread, you put it on a bed of lettuce.
Oh.
But you still have the cheese, and you still have the warm tuna, but on a bed of lettuce.
I need to try this.
Honestly, I love it. I just love tuna in general, but you still get the warmth of I want a hot meal. But you are kind of healthy about it.
This makes all the sense in the world. I don't know why I'm thinking about this now, but I assume you use TikTok, right?
I have an account, but my name is taken. My name is taken, so I had to create a fake one, and then I also don't know how to use it, so I haven't.
Oh, you gotta train it. I don't know why I've trained mine to do this, but all I watch lately is videos of people eating crumble cookies.
Oh my goodness. Crumble is all the craze in LA.
Those cookies are wild looking.
They're huge.
I feel like it's a challenge that I need to dare to try. People just sit there and they eat the week's worth of specialties in one sitting. I'm like, how are you still standing after that?
Oh yeah.
But now I'm thinking about cookies all the time because of TikTok.
It's hard to resist. I will say, if it's on set and if it's a special day, or not special day, but sometimes people bring it to set, and so the cookies are special.
Well, this makes all the sense in the world.
I just can't resist. I'm a big muncher.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I feel like I have so many food priorities when I go home after this now. I'm definitely trying that tuna melt. What is your second roll now?
Okay.
Let's see.
That was a fun one. I love that one.
I haven't asked that one in a while, too. Okay, number 8. Okay, so this is a meaty acting question. This is favorite, least favorite. I want your single favorite part of the acting process. So, putting your costume on, rehearsing, being on set, whatever it is. But then also not necessarily your least favorite, but a part of the process where you still see room to grow for yourself and you're excited to tackle it.
100%. Okay. My favorite part, so many favorite parts, honestly. I love the prep work portion of it, although there are a lot of nerves that come with it, I think. Until you truly find the character, I always have a little bit of anxiety. Am I on the right path? What if I'm not on the right path? Those are things I think about. But, the research aspect of it, learning a new skill. I've been able to do sword fighting, and for our show, sign language and stunt work. And those are all really fun things to learn. You build your toolkit. So I think what goes into preparing a character can be quite fun. And then it's magical when everything comes together. So the wardrobe, the hair, the makeup, when all of that comes together with your prep work on your first day of filming, it truly is like there's nothing like it. And then you see all the other characters and the actors playing the characters. It's exactly what you imagine them to be, or even better. And the magic of filmmaking, that's the best part. The worst part of being an actor, I think, is the auditioning process. I just have a really difficult time with it because I am a rehearsal whore. And
I've never heard someone put it that way, but I get it. I get it.
And you only get, a limited amount of time, and sometimes you don't get the script. You're guessing a lot of the time, and you don't quite know what the producers or the director wants, and you're trying to do your best thing, but you know what I mean? You just never know, and the anxiety of not knowing, as well as you only get 1 or 2 shots, and if for me, the nerves get to me, and it's not my best work a lot of times.
I understand that. There's a multitude of things about being an actor that, my brain can't compute, but a big one, especially because I'm sensitive when it comes to rejection and failure, is the audition process, especially because more often than not, you go through that process and you're told no, but the no has nothing to do with how good you are and what you've done. It's just because what you've done doesn't fit somebody else's vision. So I don't know, everything doesn't align the way it should in my mind, but
yeah, it's a learning curve. Rejection is hard, especially if you're, for me at least, after you've gone through several rounds of callbacks, and then you're like, I am this character and I have to play her, and then it doesn't go your way. That's when it's most heartbreaking, because in your mind you're already that character.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, the thing that I would tell myself to reach for the silver lining is that it's not meant to be, and then when it is, you end up with 5 seasons of The Boys.
And it's exactly. You have to be, have a positive mindset about it.
I feel like that's the only way to survive this industry.
Yeah.
All right, one last roll in the tower.
Awesome. Did you build this?
This is no,
amazing.
I did not.
It's so cute.
I ordered it on Etsy.
It's very
cute. It's supposed to look like the Jurassic Park gates.
It does, yeah.
I love that you thought I had the capability to build that.
I think you could. Did we do 4 already? No.
No, we did not. So this is actually a boys-themed question. Okay. So this isn't very clever. I called it lame superpower. If you could pick the most mundane superpower that nobody else on the planet would pick, but you would because it would make your day-to-day better, what would that power be?
Ooh. Most mundane. I mean, I would just love to be able to multitask while driving in LA. So if only Tesla, maybe? No, but no. But if only I could have 2 brains working at once, simultaneously multitasking at all times. That would be wonderful.
That's actually a really cool superpower. I'm trying to think if we've ever seen anything like that before.
You could drive, and you could, actually, I don't know, you could take a meeting, or you could be reading a book. I mean, I guess you can do all of those things, but I have a really hard time doing.
I get it.
You could do, you could be in a meeting in one, and then you could also be cooking. I don't know, just things like that where
Cooking. I feel like we need to change the car
to
accommodate that.
Yeah, just efficiency.
I feel like Sage is probably capable of that. She could have somewhat multiple brains working at the same time.
Totally. I would love to be the smartest person on
this
Earth.
is a good one. When I never ask questions like this without being able to come up with my own answer. And
what is yours?
The first thing I thought about, this is so sad. The first thing I thought about is I want to be a walking hotspot so I never lose connection.
Oh my God, yes!
That's terrible.
No, that's not terrible, because whenever I go to set, there's never any data, ever. I just did an indie in Ventura. That's in LA, but no reception, none. And then in Toronto, because we have American phones, our data runs out so fast and we keep having to add extra. We need you on set.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back for a brand new edition of Collider Ladies Night. Karen Fukuhara for The Boys.
Hi.
Show. I can't handle it. I can't handle it.
What do you mean?
Every single time I watch an episode, I'm like, how are you all going to swing bigger in a multitude of respects? And every single episode, you all up your game.
Yeah, I mean, somehow the writers come up with more and more fucked up shit.
I like fucked up shit.
I do too. Yeah. Can we curse on this?
Now we can.
Yeah? Okay,
we
great.
can curse on this because I can't help myself. I love when my guest does it before me, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so we go through some fucked up shit.
Can you tell me the movie you saw, performance you saw, personal experience you had, whatever it may be that first made you say to yourself, I have to be an actor?
Ooh. It's difficult to pinpoint one moment, but I used to be an interviewer.
I have read about this.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Please
I'm so
don't look it
excited
up.
about this.
I worked for a show called Disney's Movie Surfers when I was in middle school. And I was the one interviewing people on the red carpet, at press junkets. I went to the Pixar lot and got to, see what the animation process was like and interview directors and actors. My first red carpet was for Pirates of the Caribbean. And it was the scariest thing that I have ever done in my entire life, because it's crazy. You guys have to we had to hunt people down and say hi, Jerry Bruckheimer, would you be willing to talk to us, please? And you're shouting their names, Johnny,
oh, I can't do that.
Night, please. And if they like you, they come up to you, but if they don't, then you don't get your interview. And I felt like I failed my entire team, and I was in middle school. It was so hard. But anyway, throughout that show, I got to see what the film and TV business was like in terms of the creative side of it, the magical side of it, right? And I think getting a glimpse of that made me really want to be a part of it.
That's the coolest thing ever. I feel like they've refined the red carpet process a bit, but I would never be able to do that. That's part of the reason why I can't cover red carpets.
Oh, really? I mean, it's terrifying because it's on your shoulders.
I don't like the shouting. I like our nice little quiet space and we have time to talk. Yes. That gets me all manic and crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I will say everyone that I've worked with throughout my time on Disney was phenomenal, and all the actors, all the producers, directors, animators were so very kind to me, and I feel very lucky in that because I was flustered for a lot of it. Those were not good interviews.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I get flustered as an adult. I can't imagine being in middle school conducting those interviews. I look back at some of my first interviews as a young adult starting her professional career, and a little part of me dies inside listening to how I ask certain questions.
Oh my gosh, no.
Man, middle school, that is something else.
Yeah, it was a time.
It's not very often I get to talk to someone who is an actor but has had experience interviewing filmmakers, so I need to know, did working on that show influence how you approach the press process on The Boys and other things that you do?
Yeah, totally. I'm really aware of the 6 minute or however much time that they're allotting. Back in the day, at least when I was interviewing, there was a big clock behind the actors so that if I was you could see exactly how much time was left on the clock. Do you guys have that still?
We don't have that. I can't tell if that would help or hurt me because now the wonderful folks who run these junkets, I know a lot of them, and a lot of them are the timers, and if I don't stay on their time, I ruin their whole schedule, so I feel like it's more likely that I'll rap on time if it's a human being that I know telling me to rap versus a clock.
Yeah, the clock was really, it was like an impending doom. I like to think that I'm respectful of interviewers' times because they, when you're in the junket room as an actor, you're in there the whole day. So you're kind of like a lot of the same questions and you're trying to keep it fun and flirty, but sometimes it's hard to, keep the energy up. But then I try to remind myself that like, oh my goodness, they only have these few minutes and this is their, entire piece. It's being respectful of time is a big thing.
As someone who has gone through that process, hearing you say that means everything to me and many other people. And I know we all think about it the opposite way as well. It really does blow my mind that you all sit there and you do a bajillion of them back to back to back.
We got to give you what you can use,
It's not easy to sit there and do that marathon. So I have great respect for that part of the process as well. So you do Movie Surfers, then you go and you study at UCLA. And I was reading another interview you had done where you had mentioned that after graduation, I think you described it as hitting a wall. You saw a lot of your peers go on to take jobs in lines of work that they were passionate about, and you felt a little left behind. I have two questions about that. First, while you were still in school but leading up to graduation, what did you picture yourself doing after graduation? Because I think you got a BA in sociology and a minor in theater. So how did you picture yourself using those degrees?
I love all the research you're doing because it brings me back to my researching days. Whenever I'm interviewing someone.
Always.
I'm like, Wikipedia, is this true? Fact check.
I never know. Yeah. And sometimes I know I can't rely on Wikipedia, but that's the best way to find a roadmap. And there's been so many times where I've done my research and someone said, that's not right. I'm like, good, that's what these are for.
It's usually I always go to Wikipedia because if it's incorrect, they can also let us know, right? Yeah, so it's great. It's a great source. I majored in sociology and then minored in theater. And before graduating, I had interned at KTLA as a little wee intern, and I thought I wanted to become a reporter. Having the Movie Surfers background, I also was working as a sports reporter from the end of high school to throughout my college. I kind of paid for my college actually, and then I interned at KTLA. And I just thought to myself, well, my entire resume points in that direction. I should become a journalist or a reporter. And it didn't really happen that way. Do you know why it didn't happen?
Oh, no, I don't think I do.
It was so funny. So while I was at KTLA, I was shadowing one of the cameramen, and we got in one of the vans, and this, I was this bright-eyed college student, and I was like, what is the best part of your job and what is the worst? Tell me all about it. What do you love about it? And he said, you shouldn't get into this business. A lot of people actually said that to me while I was interning there. They said that it was a dying business, which I don't think is true, but that's what they were telling me. And then when I asked that question, he said, well, the best part of my job is the brush fires. And I said, what? And he was like, yeah, the fires when, sometimes you get a call at 4 a.m. and there's a fire in the mountains and you're the first person on call. And so you get there in your van and you have your camera up and the fire is going and there's no yellow tape to hold you back and it's hot, you're burning up and you're reporting it live. That's my favorite part. And I was sitting next to him in the car and I'm thinking, I don't know if I would say that would be my best experience that I want to have, but sure, Yes, okay, okay, all right, that's the best, okay. And then I asked him, okay, well, what's the worst? And he said, just, all the dead bodies.
Oh, boy.
And I said, oh. And apparently, you just see a lot of dead bodies. Again, you're first on the scene. Sometimes the cops are not there, or maybe they are, but it's not covered up yet. And yeah, it is kind of what it is. And I just tried to imagine life, having kids in the future and being woken up to that would be hard for me. I don't know. I really thought about it because I thought throughout my college years, I thought like, okay, this is it. I'm going to be a reporter. But that experience kind of turned me away. And then I went to Japan. Yeah. And then in Japan, I also, through friends and people that I had worked with, I wanted to like ask how the reporting scene and the journalist scene was there. And and then I also like it just did it wasn't working out. It wasn't meant to be.
Oof.
Yeah. And so
I get that mentality though. My first internship out of college was New York One in New York.
Oh, well, that sounds wonderful. No?
But it was like, honestly, it was a similar thing. I loved the job and I loved the people and I was happy for the experience. But I very quickly realized like the scarier, more negative, like day-to-day coverage was not for me. And then one day they assigned me to cover the Tribeca Film Festival. And I'm like, oh, so I'm just going to do this forever and not any of, the scary real world stuff.
Yeah, totally. And the thing is, journalists are so important in this world, right? Like it's so important to report about like what's happening in the world, the atrocities of it, and even on a local level as well. I just didn't know if I wanted to face that, and I didn't know if I had the strength to do that every single day. And so I didn't.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. You
respect
gotta choose,
it. Yeah.
choose what's right for you and respect the people who've got the ability to jump into it like that. So you decide that's not the path for you. I feel like the rest of that quote had something about like needing some soul searching in order to gain the confidence to jump into acting full force. So can you kind of break down what soul searching means and where you found that confidence?
Yeah, I moved to Japan for a few months upon graduating. I thought to myself, it's now or never, because if I'm going to get a 9-to-5 job, I just know my personality and I have a really hard time quitting something. I don't know when to quit, even if it's good for me. Relationships, basketball.
Ooh, this is too relatable.
Yes.
I saw an interview about basketball.
Yeah.
Going back to something you said earlier, I feel like you need a role where you play a basketball player and you finally learn to play basketball well.
For like 10 years and I couldn't do it. I don't know if I
can. I
don't
commented on that in that interview.
I'm like, it was Jesse. Yeah.
I think he
was like, you never
so
got better.
Funny.
No, I never got better. Worst player on the team. I was always put in to play defense because I was quite good at defense.
Okay.
I will say, really good at defense.
There we go.
Terrible shooter.
I will say, though, a lot of people undervalue the importance of defense. So having a good defensive player is top priority on a team.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I will play defense any day.
Okay.
But yes. I moved to Japan because I thought now or never. If I'm going to get the experience of living there, I want to do it now because I don't think I will allow myself to do it later. And I worked at NHK, same company that I was a sports reporter at. Their home base is in Japan. And I worked there for 3 to 4 months as a assistant director, assistant producer, and translator. And then I kind of came back. And I didn't think that living in Japan was for me at the time. And I will preface this by saying, like, I was living with my grandma, who doesn't live in the heart of Tokyo where work was. So commuting was quite difficult for me. And then what's fun about Japan is the camaraderie and everyone's going out for drinks and really good food right after work. And I didn't have any of that. I didn't have time to build friendships because I was commuting. And my focus was truly like going to work and being with my grandma. And so I think if I were to do it today, I'd love to try again and be bi-coastal between LA and Japan. That's like my dream. But yeah, so at the time I came back thinking like, oh, well, Japan also wasn't for me. And then I said, what have I always wanted to do, and what have I been so afraid of doing? And it was acting. I've always wanted to be an actor. I took classes growing up, but our family was like lower middle class. Acting classes are not cheap. Like they can get expensive, and I never went to a public school that focused on the arts, and so it just like kind of never lined up for me. And then this was sort of the first time that I was able to make a decision for myself. And so I said, now or never.
You trust your gut, and it paid off.
Yeah, it did.
Paid off big time. So that brings me to your first feature film. Like you don't get a bigger first feature than a blockbuster scale superhero movie.
It was insane.
Suicide Squad. I have so many questions about that. First, jumping into a production like that, what would you say is the biggest misconception you had about the reality of making a big studio superhero movie?
I had no knowledge of what the movie industry was like. It was my first movie, so I still can't believe how lucky I got with that. I mean, first acting gig, Suicide Squad, crazy, insane. Everyone kept saying to me, it's never going to be as good as this. And I will say The Boys is.
I was going to say.
But nothing else has compared. I mean, the two projects have been, like dreamboats. We had a lot of fun on Suicide Squad. I mean, it kind of felt like summer camp in a way. We had... Will had built this gigantic gym in one of the stages so that everyone can work out together, not just the actors, but like, the stuntmen as well, and all of the crew, whenever they had free time or like are on lunch, they could work out there. We all like went to music festivals together on our free time. And, the last day that we wrapped on Suicide Squad, I think most of us were already wrapped earlier in the day, but Margot had like the last scene, and she was on for like hours and hours and hours, and we were all just like in the trailer parking lot like sipping on champagne and like waiting for her. And I've never really like found that on any other set, the camaraderie and like the squadness of it, I guess.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So your first feature, and you are surrounded by all of these really experienced, seasoned actors. I feel like there's probably a million answers to this, but can you name something you saw one of them do that made you stop in your tracks and go, I am going to back pocket that and try that myself on my next project?
Oh, man. That's a really good question. I'm trying to think. That's a really good question. I haven't thought about this project in a really long time.
I feel like even when we're talking about your most recent project, usually you've shot it like months, a year plus before the conversation, and I can't remember what I did last week. So
it's difficult. I think on that set, I forget who exactly said this to me, but up until then, I still am, and I don't think I take this advice like full-heartedly, but I've always been like a yes man, like always yes, like yes, I'll do it. Yes, and what else? But maybe it was Margot. She kind of told, and Kara, but they kind of told me about like how powerful a no can be, and like knowing your boundaries, and also not just yourself as an actor, but like standing up for your character and like saying no so that like your character can be their like true self in a way. And then I also got to like work with my my idol Viola Davis, and you know, just like watching her work was amazing. I think she had like, don't quote me on this, it's probably not 16, but she had a really long monologue. She had like a 16-page monologue. Let's just say 16, but it's probably like 5. And I remember she got it like a day before, and it's one of those monologues where like she has to set the tone for the entire movie and like explain everything and be like, oh, because this character did this, like blah blah blah, and like she's introducing all of these new characters and ideas, and it was a big long monologue, and I just was in awe because she just was able to do it, and I just don't know how she memorized everything and like did it so well. And yeah, I mean, we had a lot of great actors on that film, and so just being on set with all of them was yeah, like my learning experience.
Great examples.
Yeah.
I love them all so much. Viola Davis is like god tier acting for me.
I know.
Just like the way she carries herself in this business too. I'm like, you just like exude warmth and promise for the future of Hollywood, and I love you.
I agree.
All right. So after Suicide Squad comes out, I know you did do some shorts and voice acting, but I think it was something like 3 years between Suicide Squad and then The Boys starting. So what was it like for you kind of, you know, having to wait for the right live action opportunity to come along and not necessarily getting dejected that it wasn't coming fast?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing that was going on for me at the time was that I was so clueless, you know, and I was very naive, and in the best way possible, because I just, like, I didn't know or think that not making it was an option. Again, like the quitting thing, right? Like I didn't think about quitting. It was never an option for me, and I just thought, okay, well, like the time is not right, and it'll come. I was also, I will say, very lucky in that I grew up in LA. So I was squatting on my parents' couch. I lost the room to my brother. So I was on the couch. And, you know, I was working as a waitress and a host. Hostess? Yeah. When you seat people at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Hostess.
We'll go with host.
And working as a translator, working odd jobs so that I could audition. And I still remember getting it's difficult to hold a job when you're trying to audition, especially back then because we had to go in person. Nowadays you can do self-tapes, which is kind of a blessing, I think, especially for the first round. I do not like it for the second round. I will say the first round is great because you can, you know, you can get as many takes as you want. A lot of times you only get like 48 hours or however long, short amount of time to prep for it. And so sometimes the like having control over the elements is great first round. But the second round, I have a really hard time like doing a chemistry read or doing a director callback with a screen is really difficult for me because you don't have a human being in the room. Anyway, but back then, because it was in person, you had to like call off work a lot of the time. And I still remember I was working at a restaurant in LA, and the manager called me in and he said, Karen, I understand that you are an actor and you have this dream, but I need you to commit to these hours. And I was like, and I quit that, like in that moment I said, I am so sorry, but I cannot promise you that because that is my priority. Acting is my priority. And if there is an audition, like I would go to it. I don't think I can promise you that. So I think I need to quit. And I did, and then I got another waitressing job, and it's difficult. The grind is not easy. So I think the 3 years was difficult. I'm so glad that I was so like oblivious to a lot of things back then, because even now it's I have the boys, and I'm so grateful for it, because we went through the pandemic, we went through the strike, and then we were almost going to have another strike basically in our industry. And I'm so grateful that I'm in the position that I'm in. But mentally, it does get to a lot of us, It's not an easy industry to stay in.
No.
Yeah.
That is an understatement there.
Yeah.
You really do have to power through. And one of the best ways to do it is to be surrounded by some of the absolute best people. And you definitely have that on The Boys. So I don't know if this is your experience, but I've had someone describe their first days on a new project as, sometimes it could be like a little awkward to meet your new co-stars for the very first time. So it's making me wonder, did you have that with your boys ensemble? And if so, what was the first thing that happened that made you realize, like, no, we are the right group of people, and this was meant to be?
I loved my first day story because, of course, going into any kind of new environment, there's a little bit of nerves, a little bit of anxiety, and especially for me because I went in later than everyone else. Everyone was there, especially with the super suits. They have, they have maybe like months and months of prep because they have fittings for the suits, and they're there from, I think like Erin was probably there first for Starlight first season. I think it was like, I don't even remember. I think she went in like February or March. I didn't come in till the summer because they had filmed 3 episodes too. And then when I came in, I flew in. The first text I got from the cast was from Jack. And he put us all in a group thread. And he was like, hey, are you free Friday night? I'd love to get together with the cast over drinks or something. And I think it was all the boys, maybe plus Jesse, whoever could make it on the day. And Tomer was also there. And it was so much fun getting to hash out Kimiko and Frenchie right there and there, then and there. We were like 2 drinks in, and we were like, so let's talk about these 2 characters. And we kind of went off in our own world, and we clicked immediately. Yeah. So thanks to Jack. Honestly.
Does not surprise me. Dude's like the nicest person.
I don't understand how he can be so humble, so sweet, so funny. He's great. Like, he's our gem.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah.
I feel like every single ensemble needs that person to bring everybody together.
Yeah. Jack's the kind of person that, like, if you're at a party and if you're in the corner of a room, he'll be like, hey, man, what's up? And you're like, oh, you're talking to me?
We need more Jacks in the world. I'll go to more parties if there are more people like Jack.
Jack is amazing. Like, he's just such a good human. Yeah.
Ugh. Best qualities to have. I'll go back to Tomer now. So you kind of just touched on this a little bit, but a 2-part question about working with him. Mm-hmm. What is the first scene you 2 did together that made you look at him and say, like, you are the perfect scene partner for me? But then can you also tell me something new you saw in him in season 4 that signaled to you, like, we have taken our collaboration to the next level?
Oh, great questions. Also, I just realized something that I always try to do during interviews from what I learned in the past is to not do any audible nodding or agreeing.
Every time I do it, I'm like, oh, my poor editor Adam is going to hate this.
Because I just did it and I was like,
Don't worry, I've done it like 20 times at this point.
When I was sports reporting, I would just be like, just with my face. So I'm sorry to the editors if I'm
better at doing that
now.
And not making noises when we have to do Zoom interviews, because Zoom has that auto function where it distorts your audio if 2 people are talking at once. So I'm better at not doing that at home. Here, forget it.
I'm trying my best. Yes. Okay. So Tomer is really, really communicative and collaborative, which makes it so much easier to like create juicy material. Like, I think the first time we met at the bar through Jack, we discussed that these two characters are drawn to each other, and they're kind of like magnets. We don't know if it's romantic. We don't know if it's like a familial kind of love yet, but there's something drawing them together, and they can't even help themselves. And some may call it a twin flame, soulmates coming together. And we agreed on that right off the bat. And it was like, when two friends are going at it and they're like, yes, oh my God, yes, 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 yes. It was like that. And then soon after we started sending videos to each other. And I remember sending him like lyrical dance videos where I was like, I think this moment is like, what she's thinking is this, and then he would send me videos of animal whisperers, and he thought that the caged scene resembled an animal whisperer with like a lion or a tiger and like soothing the animal, and how an animal can have a true connection with a human being, and the softness of it, even though the animal is such a vicious Anyway, so I think that is what created the chemistry off the bat, right? Like two actors being willing to talk to one another about like everything that pops into their minds, even if it doesn't actually work out. Like at least we tried it, and at least we brought it up, and we like said like, oh, maybe this, maybe not that, maybe this. So that was really fun to do with Tomer season 1. And then, what's funny? It's hard to answer that question because season 4 is the first season where the two characters are not together. And I felt that. It was so sad. Like the first time we weren't butt buddies all the time, because whenever I'm on set, he's usually on set. And so our schedules align. A lot of our like days off align, so we're like, oh, let's go hiking, let's go get that burger, like let's hang out. But because everything was
I didn't even think about the days off part too, but that makes so much sense.
Yeah, I mean we still did it, and because we're an ensemble cast, we can still all hang out. But it was I felt what the characters were going through a little bit, because I was like, I miss him. I feel like I have to I don't know, be alone for a lot of like these things. And I don't know, it what the characters felt was very much felt like off screen as well. But if we were to go back in time, the most fun we've had was like the musical sequence, I think. Having to learn the dance.
I could watch that sequence over and over and over again.
Yeah,
delightful. I mean, the same is true of a lot of like your fight scenes too. Like I could watch those over and over and like look at all the tiny little details that, I don't know, just to me signal acting and filmmaking feats that are just their next level stuff. So before I do season 4 finale spoilers, I'll ask one more broader question about like your whole journey on The Boys. Actually, maybe I'll split it up into 2. I'm going to split it up into 2.
Okay.
First one, what is the single most challenging scene you have ever shot for The Boys?
Hands down, the Little Nina fight. Yeah, I think it was difficult for both Tomer and I because, I mean,
it's difficult to watch.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. And Tomer had to be like completely naked for it. So, we were shooting at the Hearn, which is a location in Toronto. It's famous. I don't know if you've heard of it.
It sounded familiar when you said it, but I'm not sure.
It is everyone's like least favorite place to shoot, but the most scenic.
Okay.
We shot the Harley Quinn sequence where she's going down the vat when the Joker pushes her into the liquid.
Oh, yeah.
That's the Hearn.
Oh.
So it's like a big warehouse, lots of like rodents, dusty. It's not cute. when you're shooting there, but on screen it pops. So we were there at the Hearn, and there was water all over the place and blood. It was quite an emotional moment for both of the characters, and I was being beat up. Kimiko usually beats people up, but this scene, I was getting beat up. So it was tough.
I'll follow up on that. What is the most difficult thing to do on camera? Kick somebody else's ass or get your ass kicked?
Oh, difficult? Getting kicked. Yeah, for sure. The whiplashes are real. You know, when you're getting hit, like you have to do the neck movement, and it really gets to you. Like the next day, you can't move your neck at all. But when you're doing it, it's all fun and games.
I can see that. I see that. All right. So the other question I wanted to ask, of all the scenes you've shot in The Boys, which one surprised you in terms of, I guess, how creatively fulfilling it wound up being, where like you didn't realize the weight of a scene until you were in the thick of it doing it?
It would have to be, I have multiple, but I think the church scene in season 2 when Kenji dies and Kimiko is yelling at Frenchie. That was a really emotional moment, because I think Kimiko, she thought that she could, make it better, She thought that by having Kenji in her life and having Frenchie in her life, she could kind of reverse all of the bad things that have happened, and she could move forward and protect her little brother and make it all better and fix things. And he dies. So it was a really heart-wrenching moment for me. I draw a lot of like inspiration. I don't know if that's the right word, but from props and location a lot. Sometimes there's something on set that I can look at or focus on, and that gives me more to work with. And that was one of the scenes where I took a lot from the location, because I knew it was going to be in a church, but I didn't really feel the church while I was reading the script. And then I got to the location, and the fact that scene was happening in this beautiful church, and of even though she's done so many terrible things, she also kind of feels like she doesn't deserve to be in this position, and she's frustrated and angry and so sad. And yeah.
So many of those ideas continue to reverberate throughout the show, too.
Yeah.
All right. A couple of season 4 finale questions. So, spoiler warning, season 4 finale. Do not watch the rest of this interview if you have not seen it. So admittedly, I might be overthinking things. I don't know if you approach it this exact way with such specificity. But the first thing I wanted to ask about is the kiss in the finale. Yeah. Because that can't just be any old kiss. It has to reflect the weight of the evolution of them as individuals and their relationship. So I guess, what is it like preparing to find the right tone, the right pacing, the right blocking so that moment lands in that way?
That was all Kripke. He directed that episode, and I didn't even realize how they were going to shoot it until I got to set. I didn't know that it was going to be this beautiful backlit moment, and I'm so happy that it was. I think it was perfect for what was leading up to it. And I also love that she initiates it. Again, right?
Yes.
I love that she initiates it. She, it's in that moment, it's life or death. They're going into battle, and they don't know what the outcome is going to be. So she kind of feels like, now or never. And she's finally coming to terms with like how she truly feels. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's really cute. I love the little like tiptoe moment that's added in there. And that was a shot that I was like so surprised, like pleasantly surprised by when I saw the shot in the final edit.
It's so effective. It's so effective, and it's especially impressive that it's so effective because it's this really sweet and light moment in the midst of so many terrible things happening.
Yeah.
So very satisfying. Speaking of terrible things happening, then I have to jump to the very end. And again, this is something that I might be overthinking. I'm not sure if you approach it quite this way, but her speaking in that last moment is such a big deal. So what is it like for you figuring out exactly how you want those words to come out so that the audience feels how big of a deal that is after all of these seasons?
I'm so happy you asked this question. I had such a difficult time trying to find that. And I know that, as an audience member, it just is sort of like screaming. But I knew that moment was coming a few weeks before when we got the script, and I spiraled into like research because I was like, okay, well, if she hasn't spoken for this amount of time, can she, like, what is it going to sound like? I spoke to a speech therapist, and I did meetings and meetings about like what would feel right, what is true to someone with that experience. I didn't want it to like just feel like I just winged it. And I had brought in this like soft, like just guttural, small sounds. Basically, it was more breath than anything, because I learned that I feel like I shouldn't have like shouted something as the first word. Like it's been a while, but on the day, Eric said, no, it shouldn't be that way. It needs to be the way it is in the show. And I'm so glad he said something, because it's so right for that moment. And what I had brought in was like a little too soft, and like nobody would have heard it. Yeah. But I like spiraled into like what's right for the physical, like what in reality, what would happen.
It's important things to think about. I really do think it gives you putting that level of thought into it, gives it that kind of that weight and believability. I was so incredibly impressed by how impactful that moment was.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Job very, very
thank
well
you,
done. All right, I have to let you go. A lot of people say they don't love this question because it's a tough thing to think about, and it's part of the reason why I asked this question. I don't think anybody in film and television says good job to themselves nearly enough.
Oh, God.
So I am going to make you do that right now.
Oh, no.
Can you tell me something you did in season 4 of The Boys that you know you'll always be able to look back on and say, I am so proud of what I did there?
Oh, my gosh. This is my nightmare question.
Now don't you want my season 5 question?
I do. Give it to me. Oh, man, I am really bad at taking compliments. So this is a tough one. You know what? Well, okay. I mean, this is like kind of a cop-out answer, but I am very proud of all of the stunt work that I do, and there is not a scene in The Boys that I feel like I could have done better at, because I feel like for our show, John Koyama, our stunt coordinator, who has won an Emmy for it. Yeah, he's in it. I know, he dies. He's
I love that.
He's wonderful in it. But he gives us so much time to rehearse, like weeks and weeks. The dildo fight, I was rehearsing a month and a half before. I knew it front to back like no other. And so, yeah, I think with his help, I've been able to perform those stunt sequences.
That is not a cop-out answer at all. It is so difficult to be able to look at your work and say, I could not have done any better than what I did there. That's a very special thing to be able to recognize.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to say congratulations on everything you've accomplished. Congratulations on The Boys Season 4 and everything coming your way in the future. You have to come back to Ladies. I had a million more questions.
Oh my gosh,
and I
thank
kept
you
you
so
too
much.
long.
It's so funny. I didn't, like, I mentioned this outside before we started recording, but I thought we've met before because I've watched so many of your interviews and you're so wonderful. And like, I like, hats to you because it's so difficult to, to remember questions and to like do the research and ask the right things and make it fun at the same time. So I thank you for having me today. I'm like super honored.
That means a lot to me. It is such a pleasure, and it is truly a joy to do this research and come up with these types of questions when I'm so incredibly excited about the show someone works on and the performance that they give. So, job very well done.
Thank you.